And what's nice is you won't even have to censor that. James, why are there a bunch of schmoes in here?
Ah, good. You read the briefing before coming in today.
I live here. Briefing? One for wars?
Can I ask you to enter again, and this time with more feeling?
No, I live here. This is my spatially impossible bathroom. I will not enter again. I'm already here, cannons loaded, awaiting privacy.
See, the director's getting mad, and I don't want to fire you on your first day, but I will.
Move. I'm not ruining another pair of pants today.
It's okay, Andy. I invited the Moes.
The who?
I didn't invite the camera crew, though. They're just a dumb sight gag I liked. You're all fired. Now then, Andy, are you ready to do our review mo? The name of that thing we keep changing that has finally properly found its final name, and you're pooping. Right here.
Just give me a minute, okay? Film crews and strangers really loosened everything up. Oh, okay. Welcome to our Review Mo, where we review Mo games and anyone else in one video. Stay tuned after our rapid reviews for our Game of the Year award show, when the Mo's we hired give away our awards.
The games that appear in this part of the video are games we finished a significant portion of or completed, games that came out between our last Review Mo and this video, and games we haven't reviewed separately.
Alright, toilet flushed, film crew missing, rules established, let's get to the games.
Gestalt is an action-adventure game that wears the Metroidvania genre like a badge of honor, until the last third of the game when it rips off Celeste. You got combat, platforming, bosses, and fast travel that is both very important and an afterthought. You take on the role of Alethea on her quest to... I'm not really sure. Her goals seem to alter based on whatever character she's talking to at the time, and the story suffers hard for it. At one point, she's a mercenary. At another, she's fighting both with and against the army. At another, she's the decision maker for the entire world. Unfortunately, not one character, plot point, story beat, or battle matters, as the game shits itself right at the end when the most important characters die and the game goes to a black screen. As if it's teasing for a sequel, which I would not appreciate.
Ah. We learned nothing about this game from what you just said.
It's a shaky Metroidvania with platforming elements that rip off Celeste in the end, with a story that serves absolutely no point as it shifts goals, interrupts play with long bouts of conversations that don't matter, and lore that is simply too big for this game. But it is short, which is very nice.
James left some notes for me here. Let's see. Another Metroidvania, much better story, much better platforming elements, much better plotline. You take on the role of 1 to 4 different animal creatures that live in and on a giant space turtle. You're all curative agents who exist to fight off parasites, cure viruses, and unblock the various blood vessels within the turtle.
It's actually very cool to be able to see the progress you make in the game take tangible effect. Not only does this number at the bottom right go in a direction to indicate the space turtle's infection rate has gotten more cured, but the blood vessels gradually open. You can travel vast distances within the turtle with these unblocked pathways, and it makes hunting them down not only fun, but worth it and helpful.
Reliable, noticeable progress is nice to have, although the untrustworthy infection rate making it difficult to track progress is not.
If you don't like reliable indicators, then you don't have to deal with them for long, because this game is another short one. It took a bit longer because the gameplay mechanics were so fine-tuned and fun to use, but in about 5 hours, it's yet another game you can be satisfied you finished.
Ah, another one of these. You assume a first-person view while you ascend towers using your jump, dash jump, swing jump, chain jump, bounce jump, kick jump, and jump pads to defeat enemies and make it to the end of each level where an orb awaits destruction.
What do you mean, one of these?
These first-person violence parkour games. They call out to you personally, but you always face this inevitable wall of skill where your fingers have to have the reflexes of roadkill on painkillers and Red Bull. I assume that's what happened here as well?
The game was fun. At least what I played. I didn't complete it because there are platforming sections I couldn't figure out. There's a huge difference between letting the player figure things out and sigils that give you weapons if you kick them that have never been in the game until now. That seems like a cheap difficulty tactic that really should have been tutorialized. From there, the game had no more pull to me. I wanted to like it, but my hands hurt. I'm frustrated, and I'll never fully enjoy this game because it's really, really difficult. I won't get double S ranks. I won't unlock most of the achievements. After my hands heal, I'll be okay with this, but for right now, this is for those who have the finger dexterity of a million fire ants, and that just ain't me.
This game is very red. I'm already a fan.
Anton Blast is the long-awaited extension of the Anton-verse that all began with Anton Ball. It was a game about slapping balls. Anton Blast is a game about blasting stuff. You see, the devil, who believes he is the reddest of all, finds out there is someone redder than him and proceeds to steal the thing that means the most to him. And so the devil steals Anton's spirits to get back at Anton for being so red.
Awful lot of arguments about the color red going on in there. Not that I'm complaining, but There can be more than one red thing in the world.
I didn't believe that even as you said it.
I neither. Also, this game is very visually loud. I'm having a lot of trouble keeping track of the player character while effects crowd the screen. Foreground elements prevent you from making progress on background elements, and the game seems to drop frames often while happy hour is activated.
Because it does! There are a lot of explosions in Anton Blast, as one can guess, but you must cause these to collect poker chips. Luckily, the developers removed the combo meter that did something in the PAX West demo we played. I'm not sure. It reset when you collected cash. Now there's this speed up combo counter when you press the dash button at certain times.
You go through each level, hit this timer that activates Happy Hour, which coerces you backward through the level, kind of, a la Wario Land 4, all while breaking boxes, beating enemies, and collecting cash. Is the game good?
Kind of? The levels are fine enough to explore. Collectible hunting is nearly impossible, however. There's a lot of blink and you'll miss it elements to each level that will force you to play it again if you miss them, which is annoying. Also, bosses are ridiculously overpowered. They have multiple phases, will hit you with attacks you don't see, and will cause a lot of frustration. I haven't completed this one, by the way. I made it to the final level, which forced you through several mechanics that involve rideable objects, quick-fire movements, all without any checkpoints, so you gotta do the whole thing while Happy Hour is activated all in one go. The game ate frames like candy, and I decided it wasn't worth the frustration. Wow, I can't believe I finally beat Ys X Nordics, the seafaring adventure that took new steps in 3D Ys game history. The party system was changed, the battle system was reworked, and we got to meet a great new cast of characters. The combo play was incredible, the effects were well done, and there's even anime-like QuickTime events that activate in battle when you dodge or counter a boss's attacks. If you ever get bored hunting down Grieger on land with Adel and Karja, you could take the ship out for a rousing game of shoot everything down. Ship combat really stands out in Ys X because you have so many different weapons and maneuvers that allow you several ways to blow up every other ship. Enemy ships even adopt your abilities sometimes and will attempt to ram you, pull you in, or shoot special projectiles. While it doesn't have the first time power of Ys 8 to me or the traversal abilities of 9, Ys X definitely has a lot of new about it that I will remember for a long time. From the cast of characters that kept expanding and even had several very complete side stories, to the islands with their own individual dangers, enemies, hazards, and treasures, Ys X is a very complete game. One I would highly recommend any Switch player pick up as we await the next installment in the 3D Ys games. Hopefully we get a new one soon, because I'm itching for more.
Hey James! They just announced Ys X Proud Nordics! It looks like a complete rework of the original game with new dungeons, mechanics, characters, an updated battle system, and more!
Awesome.
Oh boy! I can't wait to play this Smash-inspired Yoshi's Island colored platform fighter with James. There were several characters revealed with the cooperative mode, and it all just looks like a warm, punchy hug. Where's the cooperative mode? And the extra characters and everything else the Kickstarter promised?
We're not likely to see any of it until late 2025.
Then why did the game release without any of these major pieces? Won't you just have to play the game another 6 times for each update where the game's balance shifts incredibly, characters are added, and bosses appear? What you play now won't be what you play in 8 months.
That's one of the difficult parts about adding declines drops to our review mo. While it has only seen its Steam release, thereby making its Switch release viable for future review mo videos, the game isn't complete. The release timeline was revealed shortly after the game's release, detailing several Kickstarter-backed mechanics that will be added much later on, so I really don't see a need to release the game right now, or even play it. This is awful, but wait to buy Declines Drops until these major pieces of the game are added. Also until the balance updates are implemented too, because I have yet to finish this game as one of the boss's straight-up cheats. Very uncool. Let's move on.
Yars Rising is a Metroidvania from WayForward and Atari. It was announced a little bit out of nowhere and met with some confusion. What is Yars anyway? Well, apparently, this is Yars. Yars Revenge, to be precise. The core gameplay of the Atari original is also present in Yars Rising, but just about everything else is original. The graphics are colorful and inspired, the music is bouncy and boppin', and the dialogue is casual and modern. Sometimes maybe a little too modern for my taste. Overall, Yars Rising is pretty basic. As Emmy, you run and jump around the Kotek facility, hacking terminals, envisioned as Yars Revenge minigames, to acquire new platforming powers such as projectiles and wall jumping. You'll also find biohacks that slot into a grid inventory, letting you have extra health or be more efficient at hacking. My problem with the game is that, with it being a Metroidvania, it is exceptionally obstructive at keeping the player involved. To be clear, I'm playing the Switch version, but I think we've all played plenty of games in the same genre, even from WayForward themselves, that run much better than Yars Rising. These loading screens took me right out of the experience. There's also the nitty-gritty mechanics of Yars Rising. The The game has no money or currency, only ammunition and health, so the only reason to engage with enemies is to regain the supplies you spent to defeat them. Combat is purely a war of attrition. Additionally annoying was that some puzzle-solving abilities, such as the high jump and the missiles that open doors, require ammo. So if you just happen to mess up a couple times in the middle of things and run out of ammo, you're screwed. Go backward until you find some enemies, farm them for that particular resource, collect enough to cover the trip back to where you were, and then a little more to move forward. I ended up dropping yards rising because I ran out of high jump charges in this room full of high jumps and no enemies. So I can either sit through a bunch of loading screens to farm enemies, then sit through those loading screens again to get another chance at this room, which maybe I'll mess up again, or I can just play something else. Fallen Leaf is something of a mashup of classic platformers, and it's sure to keep all their best parts while trimming the fat. The player is constantly kept on their toes in Fallen Leaf. Each successive level will introduce a new mechanic or idea, which will then get examined and toyed with, and then get set aside in favor of the next new thing. Enemies all have their own behaviors and patterns, meaning the player can be attentive and smart, but if you're struggling, it's not all over. The respawn is forgiving and keeps you in the action. There's also a whole array of playable characters, all with their own moves and eccentricities. Some characters do get left behind in favor of better ones, but they're helped along with upgrades, which make characters even more dissimilar. Speaking of upgrades, I don't remember the last time in-game currency felt so valuable in a platformer game like Fallen Leaf. Every town has a shop with something useful or intriguing, or even strange, that I scoop up. Being inspired by classic platformers, Fallen Leaf is sure to have some teeth. No matter what character you're playing as, you have their regular attack strength and their regular color palette. But every so often in levels, you'll find a power gauntlet, and picking it up will juice up your strength and change your look. This is an immediate dizzying sense of invincibility, as you can stop enemies faster and they can't stop you from looking good. It gets even more dangerous if you find a second power gauntlet, because then your power increases to its max and you get yet another color palette. But if you let yourself get overconfident, you'll make mistakes. If you take damage, you'll get knocked back down to your base strength, and suddenly you have to be on the defensive again. It's like the game just slapped you on the wrist. It's something of a beautiful balance, where the game is constantly testing how much you can handle. It gives you a little power and sees if you can remain level-headed. If you can, you'll get a little more power, and then it's only a matter of time until you face your limit. If not, you'll need to hang back and learn some more about the enemies and the level. You have to be careful and considerate, rather than mindlessly barrel forward. I completed Fallen Leaf 100%, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed all the bonuses I got along the way. More games should have a permanent God mode.
I kind of wish I had something more to add to that, but I don't. Fallen Leaf is really good. Go play it.
Crypt Custodian is an unfortunate case of a game that starts out good, but doesn't change enough in any direction to become great nor bad. Me being such a fan of Hyper Light Drifter and having recently played Islets, I was heavily interested in Crypt Custodian. As Pluto, you're banished to a bad place afterlife full of garbage, and your job is to clean it up using your broom. You have a melee attack that doesn't really combo, but just fires off as fast as you can hit the button, sort of like Link's sword from A Link Between Worlds. Enemies telegraph their attacks clearly, and I personally like that a lot, but quite a few enemies just throw projectiles. You also have a special attack that charges over time, and badges can be equipped to alter minor aspects. And that's about it. Combat never gets any more complicated than the guerrilla style hop in, swipe, 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 hop away, throw in a special attack once in a while. There can be beauty in that simplicity, but you're also doing mostly the same things at the end as you were in the beginning. Where Crypt Custodian shines is the world. The level design in the afterlife is exceptionally open, allowing players to enter areas through their apparent back door, potentially skipping challenges or finding things out of order. Dead ends are also covered by challenges that'll put your custodial skills to the test. You can even make your exploration zesty by voluntarily cursing yourself, putting yourself at risk for extra rewards. As you go, you'll find new abilities that'll help you progress. The problem is, these abilities are terribly uninteresting. One of them is an astral projection, which lets your spirit walk along these ghostly paths while your real self stands still. Fundamentally, this isn't any different than just having Pluto walk on these paths himself. What's worse, the upgrade after this one gives your spirit the power to jump. Again, uninteresting. I really like Crypt Custodian and I recommend playing it, but I do think that once it hits its stride, it doesn't know where to go next.
Remember when Nintendo remastered the first Luigi's Mansion, ported it to the 3DS, and added Luigi with co-op play? Remember how awesome that was, even if none of us bought it or played it until several years too late? Well, this is a similar case with Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, only the remaster did more to take away functionality than it did to reignite interest in the sequel game. So instead of being unfair to the remaster, Andy's going to talk about Dark Moon. I mean, they're essentially the same game, so it's only fair.
Thanks, James. Speaking of fair, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon came out in 2013. I point that out in case you're wondering how long it takes for a forgettable game to be forgotten. When Luigi's Mansion 2 HD came out, I had pretty well forgotten not only what the game contained, but also how I'd felt about the original. Even playing through 2 HD, there wasn't even a moment of it all came flooding back. It's simply that forgettable. Luigi's Mansion's sequels adopted a mission-based system across 5 separate mansions. Luigi follows a scripted narrative of objectives to be completed one after another, and once the last one is done, he's ejected from the mansion. Then the player selects the next mission, and back into the mansion he goes, often with some things reset or undone. If this sounds annoying, that's because it is. Luigi's Mansion the First has you exploring a long, interconnected series of rooms and hallways as you gradually clean up the paranormal presence to save Mario. Dark Moon, in comparison, has very little sense of progression, since everything can be rewound and redone by scrolling backward in the menu. Heck, even the upgrades you buy run dry pretty early on, and then there's just no reason to collect coins. Now, all that's describing Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. What of 2 HD? Not all that much has changed, just a fresh 1080p coat of paint and moving the minimap. But neither of these compare to Luigi's Mansion 3 either, which has vastly superior graphics and significantly improved gameplay to boot. In fact, in the middle of our 2 HD playthrough, I started up 3 just to see if I was misremembering how good it was, and I ended up playing 3 for about 6 hours by accident. It really is that good by itself, and so much better than 2 HD. If you like Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, more power to you, but releasing 2 HD after 3 on the same console is just odd to me. There is a clear disparity in quality on offer here for the same $60.
So Marvel Rivals.
No.
Not exactly a surprise Andy doesn't want to be here for another money-hungry, FOMO-infected game that encourages paying for skins and fake currency to pay for more skins just so you can have a different colored gray character blasting beams on your screen. Yeah, it's another one of those. I admit I was intrigued specifically because Iron Man. I've done horrible things because Iron Man was on the box. I'm not proud I gave this game any measure of my time, but I did. I tried a host of heroes, and to this game's credit, every single selectable character does have unique abilities. Even characters you think you would play similarly, Venom and Spider-Man, for example, have different abilities. Spider-Man can swing on webs and shoot webs from afar. Venom fights up close and tries to stab you with his venom tentacles. Very weird, but at the same time, different. Unfortunately, even with the different characters, the game feels like a bullet-for-bullet ripoff of Overwatch and similar games. Marvel Rivals did its damnedest not to copy the homework from games of similar natures, but it's incredibly difficult not to draw similarities to those games. Some characters feel too unlike the Marvel character they're meant to represent on screen. I understand why they feel like that, power balancing and all that, but come on, how the fuck does Jeff, a character you definitely have never heard of, take out any of these characters? Hulk would crush him in an instant. Strange would teleport him to deep space. Punisher would, I don't know, shoot him? Whatever. Each character has their own cheap footprint they attempt to make in the disgusting, money-covered, shit-smelling mud this game is, all being overshadowed by the horrible methods this game exists in, perpetuates, and creates a community around. I uninstalled this, by the way. I gave it 4 hours and was done. Forever. This installment in the Legend of Zelda series finally stars the titular character as the playable character. Finally, you can use the wisdom the princess is meant to embody to solve puzzles, be smart, and apparently make others fight her battles for her. Yes, Echoes may star Zelda, but it doesn't want to. It goes to great lengths to make sure everything and everyone else enjoy the limelight way more than Zelda does. The game even gives Zelda a Link outfit she can don for certain amounts of time to fight shit and solve puzzles.
The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom begins as the end of another Link adventure. As he strikes down Ganondorf, his trident cuts a crack in the world that opens up, begins expanding, and swallowing up everything around it. Before it can consume Link, he frees a nearby trapped Zelda, and she must flee the area. The rift that opens begins creating dark copies of everyone it swallows, including Link, townspeople, and the king, Zelda's father, himself. Those not consumed fall for the false king's farce when he blames Zelda for the dark crack's deeds, and he exiles her. Zelda must now go to every length to prove her innocence, figure out the mystery behind these rifts, save those consumed by them, and help Tri collect all his friends so they can close the rifts.
Echoes of Wisdom revolves around, well, Echoes. There are dark echoes of characters and enemies you fight, echoes to create things like beds to sleep in, boxes to climb on and press switches, moblins to fight things, and nothing else beyond that. You can learn to make more of these same ones via closing smaller rifts and purchasing upgrades, but you don't need them. They clog the single row list that expands as you learn more echoes, creating the worst way to organize anything since Tears of the Kingdom, and some of them are completely useless when compared to other better ones.
There's so many confounding decisions in Echoes of Wisdom that I just don't understand what kind of whole all of these pieces were meant to form. The scrolling menu for Echoes only gets worse as you get deeper in the game, somehow finding a way to punish completionists. Heck, some Echoes are objectively better than others and could easily replace their worst counterparts, but just stick around anyway. And there are those weird mechanical Echoes that follow completely different rules. There's an idea in game theory that once a player finds the most efficient means of executing, they'll forego all other methods. With this in mind, I can pinpoint precisely when I tuned out of my playthrough of Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. When I found the water block. Now I can just go anywhere, whenever. Nothing matters. I'm not being creative. I'm not solving problems. The game just gave me the win button.
The Legend of Zelda series seems to be in this strange period where it's attempting to reinvent itself through means we consider unnecessary. It's like they're trying to reinvent soup. It was already polished over several decades, came in many flavors and amounts. You don't have to remake the whole deal from the ground up with cow piss and sand.
I, for one, just don't understand why anyone would design a Zelda game for Zelda, starring Zelda, with gameplay focusing on something only Zelda could do, and then she turns into Link. It's such a cop-out. Combat starts out with you throwing keys at a moblin like a Pokemon fan game, until eventually you realize becoming Link for a second is so much more efficient. Plus, when you reach a boss, the ultimate solution is to still slap them to death with a sword, but since Zelda herself doesn't have a sword, you have to manage a stamina bar.
Gotta say, when we live in a 355-day expanse where we get to see Super Mario RPG, Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door, and a new Mario & Luigi RPG all release on the Switch, it's safe to say it's been a great set of days. Since the closure of Alpha Dream, we all feared the Mario & Luigi series would never see the light of day again. We would only remember how excellent Bowser's Inside Story was, and how playable the rest of them are. But lo, here we are, a new installment built to fit a 3D space with all the squashing and stretching the series has come to show the world Mario & Luigi still have. Well, Luigi still has. Mario still feels stiff as hell, while Luigi has a dedicated distraction button this time.
Every time I look at this game, remembering how colorful everything is, the shift in color from red to purple on Mario, and from green to blue on Luigi, I'm filled with a sense of rage. Why rage? Because I'm not the Luigi on screen being distracted by every box, pullable turnip, button to press, and platform to jump on. I'm not the green bean on screen, lean and mean, being demeaned, dreaming dreams, and acting as the reason puzzles get solved and battles end. Mario and Luigi Brothership should have included cooperative play. Player 2 should control Luigi. Player 1 doesn't even control Luigi.
Unlike in previous installments, you don't have full control of Luigi. You can make him jump, use his hammer, and activate battles if you want, but you no longer need to interact with him to jump gaps or dodge incoming fire that activates battles. In fact, he will just always do his best to copy and follow Mario. Unless the two get separated too far, then Mario will pause everything to go backward to meet his brother, sometimes jumping off cliffs to meet him. It's really annoying, but I came to be thankful for it as the game dragged on and 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 on.
This is simply too long a game to not let you control Luigi. He is sometimes controlled in battle via B and Y button presses, but on the field, if you press L, Luigi will go off and complete a simple task. Also, this game is terribly long. Agonizingly long. Aggressively long. Of course, there are many moments in this game that will make that length incredibly worth the wait. The animation, the attention to detail, the fact Bowser does something important and awe-inspiring every time he's on screen. You barely notice the 2-hour gaps between these moments, but when you do, the game really shows its incredible lengths of boredom. James will probably open this by praising the double jump.
You start the game with a fucking double jump!
Ah, there it is. Right on schedule. Anyway, Visions of Mana. We went all in on Visions of Mana. We bought this big box amazing edition that included a Ramco plush toy and the art book. And after having beaten the game as thoroughly as we could in one playthrough, I'm happy to have that on our shelf. The real-time battle system keeps you active and on your toes. There are 5 playable characters with 3 unique movesets each, allowing for effectively 15 different playstyles, each of which have loads of equipables, systems, and skills to make them stronger and more unique. Plus, a number of skills are specifically designed to complement other characters, so juggling 3 characters for the best combination becomes a game all its own.
Visions of Mana is insanely fun to play. There is a near constant evolution of gameplay both in and out of battle that kept us playing more and more. Even the boring moments are quite literally that. moments. Everything else is filled with the noise of battle, of excellent character interactions, and collecting syrup for the dud bears.
Something I particularly enjoyed about Visions that I hope other games take note of is the golden clovers. So characters naturally accrue experience when they fight and level up, right?
Yeah.
And in order to purchase skills on their respective trees, the player spends that character's experience points. In other games, if you're just shy a few points, then too bad, so sad.
Oh.
But in Visions, you can use golden clovers to cover the difference.
What?
It's an excellent system that makes finding the clovers very rewarding, especially since they're the reward for all sorts of tasks.
Ooh. Collecting everything in this game is so fucking worth it. Using the on-field abilities, double jumping and dashing can nab you everything. Plus it starts to feel like a collectathon eventually. And he even found some YouTube videos showing how some sequence breaks can happen. I may have even gotten one or two to come close to happening because I'm almost great at this game.
Congratulations. Oh, this game looks like a cute platformer with some Mario inspirations.
You'd be correct. There's a great deal of Mario 3 inspiration, and it's appreciated. The controls, the P-meter equivalent, jumping on and throwing enemies, coin collection, the familiarity allows the game to do some interesting things to expand the genre, like the Street View area that operates on a 2.5D plane, as opposed to the rest of the game that operates on a 2D platform, or the hidden traps and pratfalls that dot some levels and make some frustration factories.
This game is adorable.
Agreed. The whole game centers around a misunderstanding between the player character, their childhood friend, and a sudden third stranger for a love triangle situation. You must spend the entire game chasing your childhood friend in order to explain things while they keep running away. Then, when you beat the game with her, you play the entire game again as the character you were chasing. They have new abilities and powers, but it's just the same game again. Exactly the same. I ducked out at that point. If there were no variations in levels, I was not going to play the game twice. Much like Luigi in Super Mario 3D Land, I have no interest in playing the game again. Fine game, just made me lose interest when they said, okay, now do it all again. Oh, to be blinded by nostalgia. You say beat 'em up, we say
whatever.
You say beat 'em up but with Power Rangers, we say
Chris is on his way over to kick butt with us.
Chris is on his way over to kick butt with us.
I'm on my way over to kick butt with us.
If only our excitement had lasted.
The three of us managed to beat this game in one sitting, but it was very apparent none of us were having fun after the first two levels. It was nice to see new art and animations for the Power Rangers in a pixel style, and I guess that ended up just carrying us to the end.
For those chanting, it's a beat 'em up, what did you expect? Did you see the trailers? Well, they didn't lie. There are levels in this game that don't consist of constantly punching left and right, inconsistent grappling abilities, and grabs you can't time or figure out. This is an up to 5-player adventure where you sometimes run toward the center of a screen while effects blind you, and you can't understand the thing that just stole half your life bar. Then there's the Megazord levels, where you and other players must take turns dodging attacks and hitting huge bosses. Of course, if the controller player does too well or too poorly, the baton is passed to the next player, then the pressure's on them for all this visual clutter and bullshit to piss them off too.
There's also some small things with the beat-em-up portions. Levels will often have this giant time crystal chamber you have to destroy, but it'll explode and cause a rewind of several seconds. You have to destroy it before it can destroy itself. Every time this happens, it's disorienting and only serves to extend the level's length by making you fight the same resurrected enemies over and over. I also couldn't help but notice multiple instances where players would take a hit but wouldn't take proper damage, and other times where the life bar would nearly deplete from only one hit.
There's an argument to be made that this game works, but almost every aspect that tries to expand the beat-em-up genre in this game fights that tooth and nail. It works, but it's not at all fun.
It's 1996. I'm playing Crash Bandicoot, the greatest platformer of all time. I've never been happier. It is 2001. I'm playing Jak and Daxter, the greatest adventure game of all time. I've never been happier. It's 2006. I'm playing Loco Roco, the greatest handheld game of all time. I've never been happier. Astrobot is a fragment of each, the best of all their parts, and a clear celebration of all things PlayStation concentrated into a joyous, can't-lose feast for the players. I've played through Astrobot twice, and unlike any other piece of media I've consumed, there is no low point. No chapter where I thought, oh dear, it's the water level again, or why is there a stealth section here? Just constant new gameplay mechanics of an adorable little robot flying on a controller to another planet where it'll wow the player with more fun things to do. If Rare had never faltered, this would be the natural evolution of their talents. Astrobot isn't just the best game of the year, it's a better game than we deserve. It's like it landed here from a timeline where better games are the norm. Too good to warrant the demand, polish, and taste it takes to make a game of this caliber, and too comfortable in its own skin to be anything less than what it must be. A vision. A triumph. a masterpiece. Astrobot is an ad. It's the distilled joy of not just owning a PlayStation 5, but having ever had a hand in playing a PlayStation game in the last 3 decades. It's weaponized, remember this? That never stops its explosive confetti rain of joy. It's a victory lap for any and all gaming joy that Sony has produced since their first system hit the market. Even the DualSense controllers on full display, popping and dinging as you walk across a bed of spikes or cracking a sheet of glass under your feet. The entire game is shouting, "Look at how cool all of this is when it's firing on all cylinders!" When you order a sandwich of a fast food menu, it never looks like the picture used to promote it. Astrobot is the sandwich meeting that expectation. It's an ad. It's crisper, louder, and gets the point across better than any product you actually intend to pay for. I freed every bot, met every challenge, and grabbed every trophy and explored every edge of each world. I want more, but I'm greedy. I'm not perfect like Astrobot. It is 2024. I'm playing Astrobot. It is Crash Bandicoot. It is Jak and Daxter. It is Loco Roco. It is the best. And it makes me want to be better to match it. This video is brought to you by Sega.
And that's more games than you'll see anyone else review in one video. Good job making it to our award show, everyone. James, come over here and talk while I switch our set. Oh no.
Woo! Welcome to our Game of the Year award show, everyone. We have 10 awards for our Moes to hold on to this year. Of course, Andy and I have our own versions of best, worst, and okayest games of 2024, but we have 4 additional awards. Our first is the Bought Too Early award. Next, we have the Curly Fries award. Third, welcome the Visions of Mana award to the stage. Finally, my favorite award to present, the Worst Game Mechanic award. Now that we know the awards, let's reveal the games that can receive them. Anton Blast,
Astrobot,
Balatro,
Berserk Boy,
Box Room,
Castlevania, the Dominus Collection,
Crow Country,
Crypt Custodian,
Declines Drops,
Demon Slayer, Sweep the Board,
Fallen Leaf,
Garbanzo Quest,
Gestalt, Steam and Cinder,
Go Mecha Ball,
Kitsune Tales,
Legend of Legacy,
Lil Guardsman,
Luigi's Mansion 2 HD,
Mario and Luigi Brothership,
Mario vs. Donkey Kong,
Marvel Rivals,
Master Key,
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind,
Moonlight Pulse,
Morbid, The Lords of Ire,
Paper Mario, The Thousand-Year Door,
Peglin,
Pepper Grinder,
Plushie from the Sky,
Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown,
Princess Peach Showtime,
Quick Quest!
Shady Knight,
Slash Quest,
Spiritfall,
Super Mario Party Jamboree,
The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom,
The Thaumaturge,
Visions of Mana,
Yars Rising,
Ys X Nordics. So, how about we start at the very bottom with our worst games of the year?
In years past, I've given worst game to something that both isn't enjoyable to play and is functionally embarrassing. My optimistic side hopes that some year, I'll manage to not find a game that fits that description, that all the games I buy just play well and work well. But alas, I still got burned this year. My worst game is Yars Rising. I saw the Yars Rising announcement during a Nindies Direct like a lot of other people did, but I also went to PAX West and got to meet the game's director and writer. I've got the game's comic signed and hanging on my wall. Even after having played the game, this is one of my prized possessions. But Yars Rising simply doesn't work. Mechanically, it's a pitifully slow-paced Metroidvania with inconsequential combat, abilities that require limited resources to solve puzzles, and finicky hacking minigames that end up wasting time. Functionally, it's packed full of loading screens. Stealth sections offer no defenses against psychic enemies, and level barriers break multiple times. Some part of me still really wants to enjoy Yars Rising. It tickles the parts of my brain that likes its style and its presentation, but actually sitting down to experience it was actively painful. It's the worst game I played this year.
My Worst Game of the Year award was very clear and very easy to pick. It stands out like a shit-smeared roll of toilet paper made of fake dollar bills. This award heartily goes to Marvel Rivals. Yes, I did play this game for a portion of my life. They dangled an Iron Man suit in front of me with a design this sick. Of course I was going to nibble a bit. Marvel Rivals is a soulless, baseless, obvious cash grab at the team-based shooter genre. Do I believe it's the quote-unquote Overwatch killer? No, I do not. I certainly wish a game would come along and kill this entire genre and its money-hungry, community-ruining tendencies, but I don't believe, with our many years of human history, that any game will come along and perform the bloodbath I pray every night to happen. Marvel Rivals features many known-to-casuals Marvel stars fighting it out in rip-off modes and similar locations. Every character is useful in some way or another, no matter which you pick, but some are built as tanks, some as whatever Vanguard means, and others as whatever Luna Snow is. It's all just painfully soulless and boring. I have since uninstalled this future nightmare and await the next popular property to try their hand in this area because it's where the money goes to be spent and people go to be really, really mean to each other. These games really bring out the negativity in people like you've never seen. Like, fuck, man. Do you really want your fanbase this rabid and this horrible? Whatever, enjoy your award, you shitty game.
Well, now that we're at the bottom, there's nowhere to go but up. So let's talk about our okayest games of the year. The real middle of the middle games. The award you always have the hardest time giving out because there are so many that just fill that bowl and then some. My award for okayest game of the year goes to Princess Peach Showtime. We talked about this in the review compilation we did back in June, but Princess Peach Showtime is just too inefficient to get off the ground. The scattershot floors and the disparate level themes cause the game to constantly hold the player's hand and feed them reminders of what does what. And so, the pacing of things such as dialogue and exploration can feel extremely similar to a visual novel. One can make the argument that Showtime is designed for a certain demographic, or a certain age group, etc. But I've never seen how or why that argument can just excuse poor design. Saying something is designed for kids or girls or what have you in order to shrug off the product's shortcomings ends up just demeaning that demographic, as though all they deserve is lower quality. There's lots of games, lots of shows and movies and books designed with kids in mind but are still engaging for anybody else as well. Princess Peach Showtime is an unengaging game. It does still work, it's still colorful and adorable, but it just never becomes enjoyable. And for that, it's only okay.
My okayest game goes to the one that met every one of my expectations but did nothing to reach further, nothing to reach below. It's the most middle-of-the-road game I completed. Of course, this game would probably have been my best if not for something we'll discuss later. Ys 10 Nordics. This game receives my okayest game award. The combat is unique, varied, intricate, and somehow familiar, specifically to those familiar with the last two 3D Ys games. Luckily, even though you're only playing with 2 characters instead of 6, the updated combo combat system remains fresh and flashy, specifically with the anime-like cutscenes that occur when you dodge certain attacks and against certain bosses. No battle is boring. No on-field enemy feels samey. No platforming section feels too underwhelming. Actually, this is the first one of these I played where you don't get a double jump. The Spider-Man swinging kind of supersedes it, but still, the first. The reason this game sits firmly in my okayest is because it's not the best version of it. Ys 10 Nordics is not the final version of the game. In fact, within a week of us completing the game, Falcom announced Ys 10 Proud Nordics, a version of the game with more dungeons, more story, and expanded combat. It was a huge slap in the face to realize they could just invalidate hours of gameplay, dollars spent on special editions, and essays of text read in order to complete this game as much as I possibly can. The fuck was the point if I just have to buy this again in a year? Guess that's just how life is gonna be. Oh well. Enjoy your okayest game award, Ys 10 Nordics. I look forward to being proud of your achievements when I buy you all over again in a year. Ugh. Before we reveal our best game of the year awards, we have 4 other awards to give out. Will the Moes please enter the room?
Who are these people?
They're the Moes holding Mo Game Awards for our review Mo. Get it?
No. Will the Mo holding our Curly Fries award step forward, please? Thank you. The Curly Fries Award is presented to the best port, remaster, remake, portmaster, report, makemaster port that came out in 2024. We could go into a long, drawn-out description of what we think of ports and remasters, but James is standing there, teeth at the ready to chatter about this year's winner. So without further ado, we present this year's Curly Fries Award to Castlevania, the Dominus Collection.
I'm not sure which omniscient presence heard my wish from 2017, begging them for the DS Castlevania games to make their way onto the Nintendo Switch, but they granted it with gusto. For a grand total of 25 American dollarinos, you can have all 3 DS Castlevania games in their newly remastered, updated forms that feel all too familiar. In addition, you get an arcade-exclusive Castlevania game, and a remakester of that game. That's 5 games in one system, decades of intrigue to enjoy, and a generation of excellent Castlevania games to play in every difficulty, with every character on every screen in your house. You can even change the orientation of the screen so the touchscreen elitists can experience these adventures with all the terrible tracking you need to defeat the bosses in Dawn of Sorrow. But beyond all of this, there's one update to these games that elevates it above every other remaster released this year. The rewind button. It not only provides a type of eraser for mistakes made in the last 30 seconds, it offers casual players a way to appreciate and complete the no-hit achievements some of these games have. Did the rest of you know there are medals you can collect for defeating bosses in Order of Ecclesia without taking a hit? I did, but I could never earn them. Now I can, and so can you. You can save yourself from costly mistakes, having to spend all your money on healing items, and you can finally afford decent armor and weapons from the shop in town. You don't have to wait to find the drops from enemies. I am floored by this compilation of Castlevania's best installments. I can't wait until the physical lands in my hands sometime in 2035.
Next, will the Mo holding our Bought Too Early award step forward? Good job. This award, honestly, could go to a few games in our list, but only one takes it this year. It goes to a game we believe shipped in a state that only inspires buyers to buy it again in an unspecified time in the future when the game is more complete. This is a game lacking important modes, mechanics, characters, or is in a near unplayable state, but is still on sale for full price and advertises itself as complete. James, who gets this award?
It absolutely, completely, totally kills me to do this, but the game receiving this award is Ys 10 Nordics. Yeah, comes as a shock, right? The sea-spanning 3D action RPG that expands the lore of Adol the Red's adventures further beyond what we could have expected receives this award. This game has a habit of flipping the table of expectations with 5-second intervals of interaction. The first was the lore-explained reason why mana exists in Adol's world and how he got it. That took 5 seconds. The second was determining how dumb the crux of this game's story is. The final boss is really, really dumb. It took 5 seconds to figure that out. The penultimate is the secret cutscene hidden within the game that could give context to the end of Adol's adventures and a continuation possibly featuring Karja. 5 seconds to pen the voices, the characters, and the excitement. Finally, 5 seconds to read this tweet and feel your heart instantly fall out your asshole. With one tweet, Ys 10 instantly accepted this award because of Ys 10 Proud Nordics, which is what we can only assume is an expanded version of this game with more dungeons, more mana string abilities, an expanded story, and better combat. Why the fuck did this game even come out if you were going to announce the Proud version months after the American release? They should have waited. They really should have waited. Either way, we're disappointed, and Ys 10 Nordics receives this award with no contention from anyone else, I'm sure. Will the Mo carrying the Visions of Mana award please step forward? Nicely done. The Visions of Mana award goes to the most Visions of Mana game we played this year. If you're familiar with our RoboCop Rogue City award from last year or Evil West award from the year prior, then this will follow the same deal. This year's Visions of Mana award will go to, surprise surprise, Visions of Mana!
Visions of Mana is a near-perfect encapsulation of elements of RPGs that James and I both value when we're culling the field for the next one he and I play on our Twitch channel,
twitch.tv/Gateway2Drillbit.
As we've gone over, he'll learn to do very violent things for a game with a double jump and an in-air dash. Combat is a plus, colors are another point in this game's favor, look at it! But Visions of Mana has a unique effect on me that most RPGs we play quote-unquote together do not. I want to play it. I want to experience this game, all of its story, the battles, the secret searching, myself, in my own time. I want to willingly delegate a portion of my life to seeing this game a second time immediately. Beyond what we've discussed, I am also a sucker for a good, complicated menu that has noticeable visual progress when things occur. The elemental plot system is one that screams my name as I watch James frivolously waste his points and golden clovers on abilities he won't use. I would organize this better, but that's the beauty of this menu. It can be refolded to fit certain scenarios and power up certain characters' elemental plots. There are items you receive later in the game that will clear a row of elemental plot for a character, rewarding you the points you spent in there so you can spend them in other rows. You can really play a game within a game in which you work this system to ensure the elements you pick and put together decimate bosses, hardcore enemies, and grant you easier access to the best weapons in the game. I believe that as I watch James struggle, refuse to wipe his boards clean, and reallocate his points elsewhere.
I won against every boss in my way, even the hardest secret one. I think I did fucking fine.
Yeah, but you could have been efficient.
Whatever, I hope you do play this so I can judge your gameplay.
I have no need to broadcast my gameplay to the general public. This will be at night, after bedtime, under blankets, and surrounded by flashlights I quickly turn off as you make your rounds to make sure I'm asleep. Like an adult! With that Mo put to pasture, will the final Mo, the one holding our Worst Game Mechanic award, please step forward? Wonderfully done. You deserve an award for stepping forward. The Worst Game Mechanic award goes to the same thing every year, but James likes to do his song and dance about it, and by this point in the video, I'm too tired to stop him. James, take it away.
How about we take it away together, Andy? This year's award goes to loot boxes, battle passes, and difficult to earn in-game currency. And let's all remember our catchphrase. All together now. 1, 2, 3. Loot boxes are shit. It's rare we let a game in our ranks that can actually accept this award. Usually we just use the blanket terms and catchphrase, but this year, Marvel Rivals can accept this award as it embodies all the worst game mechanics this award represents. Hooray! Finally, it's time we do the world a favor and reveal our Best Game of the Year awards. The top of the iceberg made of all the okay and awful games. My award for Best Game of 2024 goes to the Thaumaturge, easily, hands down. There is a near constant feeling of progression in the Thaumaturge. Every single errant piece of paper, note pasted to a wall, and most NPCs will grant you experience points which are used to power up Victor's abilities, making his Saluturge stronger. There is always a reason to run around exploring every single environment, interacting with strange things you see because you're bound to earn something. Plus, sometimes you may be granted access to the second best part of this game. The battle system. Often there are burly men to beat up. At one point you had to fight your way through a boxing ring to show that the champion was nothing. It was spectacular. While you didn't win alone because your Saluturs can inflict debilitating status effects, it was an incredibly rewarding, high-stress situation that had Victor fighting battles one after another. It was amazing. With the battle system incorporating elements similar to that of Paper Mario, with a timeline system you can interrupt and affect, the turn-based system fits this game very well. When you're done beating the shit out of people, collecting side quests, and upsetting that one guy who says he's the Thaumaturge who sometimes impedes your progress Junior Troopa style, you can engage in the best thing this game has: the world. 1905 Warsaw, or this game's timepiece version of it, is alive from every corner, every fruit stand, from every seemingly pointless NPC to every other. There is no part of this game's environment that doesn't breathe and add some element to the world Victor occupies. The sound effects are perfectly placed and used, and the day-night cycle ensures you're never looking at the same thing for more than several minutes. I'm absolutely engrossed in the world Fool's Theory put together. I am so excited to play this game on PS5 when it lands in my hands. The Thaumaturge easily walks away with my Game of the Year award. I wish I could hand it to the game twice because I absolutely would. Please craft more intricate, meticulous games for me to gush over ad nauseum until Andy has to cut my sentences short. Okay, he won't.
Why would I cut off an impassioned speech about a game you won't stop talking about? Now grant me my time to tell the world of my Game of the Year. For my Game of the Year, I was between Fallen Leaf and Astrobot. Fallen Leaf is a beautifully done game that I ended up 100% completing in only a few sittings. It's not that the game was easy, oftentimes far from it, but that the game was just so easy to get back into. But Astrobot did something I don't think any other game has done. It made me want to use a PS5. Every time I sat down to boot up the game, I had to wait. The system needs to download an update, which throws up a loading bar. Then the disk data needs to copy over. Loading bar. The game needs to update. Loading bar. Now the controller needs to update. Loading bar. No matter when I sat down to play Astrobot, it would be upwards of 15 minutes before I'm actually seeing the title screen. But once it was all done, it had my full attention. Because Astrobot really is just that good. It's adorable, it's colorful, it's full of particle effects and physics you can kick around, it's spontaneous and stimulating, giving you new toys to play with level after level. Everything is sprightly and full of animation. There's no aspect untouched by some loving designer. It's like the whole game is a surprise party from a best friend. If you're looking for a game that's traditional in its design mindset but still takes full advantage of modern technology, for the best and a little of the worst, that's Astrobot. Games being bigger and more advanced often throws up ideas of realistic graphics and gruff storytelling, but I argue Astrobot is where games always belonged. Pure, simple fun.
There you have it, folks, our review mo for the second half of 2024 and our award show all in one. Check out the reviews of games we did this year and our first half review mo in the description. That was a lot of games. Alright, see you all for more in 2025. Andy, get off the floor.